And now I'm going to show you the Vemotion Viewer in all its glory. So as you can see, we've logged in as usual, and we've selected one of our online encoders, which is highlighted in green. You can see that lower down we have the offline ones also. So first of all, if we hover over the image, we'll get this gray bar at the top. We're going to pin this, and this shows us our live kilobits per second and also the currently selected stream. If we right click on the image, we can select one of our pre-selected profiles, which we can change on the fly at any time. So we can go down really low, or we can go really high, and at the click of a button, that's done. So we'll stay around here. At the moment, as we can see, we've got our pan, tilt, and zoom, which can be done by clicking the screen. The closer we click to the center, the slower it moves. The further, the quicker. Something to note. And then obviously with the scroll wheel, we can zoom. If you don't want to use your mouse for that, we can select down here, and on the left hand side we have the old school controls. One of the new features that we have with our new pole cam and the Linux going forward is if we have a second encoder on the device, we can select a same camera again, but what we can do is if we digitally zoom on this second one, we can select an area of interest, which can come in handy when we are trying to keep an eye on an area of interest while maintaining an overview of the general area of which the camera can do. So what we can then do with the second encoder is we can turn on digital zoom, and we can zoom in on an area of interest that we want to focus on while still maintaining an overview of the general area. Now this can be useful for many of customers with regards to fly tipping or antisocial behavior, or if they just want a better look of a certain area, maybe a number plate or a vehicle, to see if there's something going on untoward that shouldn't be. And this doesn't affect the second view, so we can still see what's going on. And if we turn that off, we can then put that image back to normal without any issue. With regards to playback as well, what we can now do is we've now got the ability to rewind and pause live. So if we rewind, we can see that car come back, and then we can pause. And then what we can do with that pause is we can then digitally zoom and get a better image of that vehicle and potentially get the number plate. So we can do all that, and then once we've got what we need, we can go back to resuming live without any issue whatsoever. And that doesn't affect our recordings, which we can still get as usual without any issue. We then also have focused on live events. So we've got events now, whether it be events for motion detection, for alarming of sensors, tamper sensors, anything that the camera can send via an on-off alert, we can now feed through our viewer and we can have in here. So for instance, we can select recordings and we can go to play, and we can see that that is now a recording of the past, and we can see the car that was there before. We can also then pause that, and we can digitally zoom in again. We can get information that we want from the vehicle or anything else. What we can also do is we can also bookmark these events manually. We can put in a bookmark if there's something of interest happened, and we can download the last minute or the last 3 minutes, and we can bookmark it, or we can download and bookmark it. Okay, and then lastly, we do now have, as you can see, if we go into the settings, we do have a dark theme. So if this is going in a control room or something like that, where they don't want a bright blaring screen in the face, they can turn that into dark mode, and it'll give you this nice dark edge rather than the bright white. As you can see here, I have set up a mosaic. So using the viewer, you can select lots of different grid sizes. So here we've gone with a 4x4, and as you can see, we can see 4 different cameras on this. And obviously if we select the image, we can still PTZ all the cameras that have the ability to PTZ without any issue. We can individually control the stream quality of each of these images as independent, so we can have them on any selection we want. And we can also see the high resolution versus the lower resolutions there. What we can also do is on the individual streams themselves with the Linux software is we can create quads or 9 views in the actual image itself. So you will lose the functionality of PTZ, however, you can see more images in one stream itself, and we can put that up to a 9 view also. And we can have those down to also a picture in picture, which what that will do is if we change that to dev 1, is we can see that in a picture in picture, we maintain the previous image in the top left hand corner, but we now have a large view that we can PTZ. So in one image, so if we change this to just a one grid, we can see that we've got the picture in picture of the previous camera. We can see what's going on in that one, while we can still maintain PTZ and control of this one, which is a handy little feature, which means that the customer doesn't always have to have a second encoder on the same unit. They can have just one encoder and have this neat little picture in picture and be able to see what's going on in their other camera while still maintaining control of this camera. Lastly, we need to talk about the bandwidth and the abilities of the Vemotion software itself. So as we know, the networks that these cameras are running on are not always exceptionally good. 4G is not always fantastic, and neither is 5G. So in those times when things are fantastic, we can have an image like this where we can go up to, on this camera, 1080p. We can take in 2K and 4K cameras. That's not an issue for us in our Linux operation anymore. And we can see we've got a lovely image, but that is using a lot of bandwidth for it. 2.5 megasecond, okay, and the network might not always be able to handle that. So obviously the Vemotion software will step down automatically, but you might want to do that yourself anyway, just to save data costs. So these are pre-configured. However, you can have any of these you like. You can set up your own. That's not an issue. So we can go down to 600 kilobits a second here, which we can see that after a second, the image stabilizes as it's not sending the data that's not changing. So we're using a lot less, and that'll keep reducing over time. But we can go down as low as one frame at 20 kilobits a second. Now it's quite a blocky image, but if you're having issues with your network, you can see that that is perfectly an image that can be used to sense if there's motion, if there's something going on, if there's something happening in that scene. You're going to be able to know what that is, and you're using 20 kilobits a second, which is absolutely nothing on your network. So which also means that we go so low as to, so you don't get a black image. You still maintain a picture no matter what the quality of your network, as long as there is still at least 20 kilobits.